You should never judge a book by its movie, but this video is not about how books are somehow better than movies or more elevated or anything like that. They're just different in some really important ways, and they're also similar in a very important way that I'll get to later. But novels allow readers to participate in the telling of the story that you just don't get with movies. With reading, it's literally required. You can't help but create these mental images as you read. Inside the theater of your mind, you're watching characters of your own creation. Those characters look and sound completely different depending on who's reading the book. Everyone watches the same movie, but nobody reads the same book. See, the movie director dominates the whole experience by telling you what's important, what to look for, what you should pay attention to, but the author can only do so much. That's why it's much more effortful to actually read a book as opposed to watching a movie, because it requires more mental energy to create these images inside your own mind rather than just passively consuming a movie. Our minds are involved in co-creating the imagery and the experience, whereas when you're watching a movie, you can pretty much just sit there and still kind of get it. But let me ask you this, what do books and movies have in common? Writing. Books are obviously written, but so are movies and so are TV series, and some of them are really quite good. Just because it's on TV doesn't mean that it's trash. And sometimes, I'll say things that I think are funny, like I'll call somebody a semi-literate simpleton. I told this one guy that he couldn't tell the difference between Henry James, William James, and Kevin James, which I thought was pretty funny. You're not automatically some sort of simpleton just because you enjoy a series on TV. But the last thing that I want to point out, and this is a very important benefit of reading, is the development of empathy. When you read a book, you literally have to put effort into imagining what it's like to experience reality as someone else, someone who's completely different from you, and that can help you do all sorts of things. But it can also make you kinder and more tolerant, and less likely for you to call people semi-literate simpleton. For more on this, I'd really recommend Steven Pinker's book, The Better Angels of Our Nature, which is a book that I read in 2015, and it's about the decline through history of human violence. He makes the case that today is the most peaceful, prosperous, happy period in human history, which doesn't seem like it's the case if you watch the news all the time, but compared to the horror story that is human history, it's a pretty damn great time to be alive. And there are a few reasons for this, of course, like the development of, world governments and certain conventions against, violence and changing social conditions, of course. But one of the main reasons that he identifies for the decline in human violence is the development of empathy after huge populations of people started to become more literate and they started reading novels that forced them to identify with some of the experiences and feelings of other people. So to wrap this up, obviously, I love books, I love movies, but I think we can agree the book was better.
FaceTime, go I make time. All these people wanna hate, fine, I'ma make mine. While you sitting there complaining, I'll be training. While you sitting there just waiting, I'm creating. Yeah, sometimes I think that I'm unstoppable.